Right, so welcome gents, back to another episode of Fit Beyond 40. Very lucky today. I've got a gentleman with me, Ricky Wallis, who is 65 years old, can you believe? And we're going to talk about how some people are going to put the age bracket as an obstacle. Okay, we're going to go through what this gentleman did and what he did in his older years to overcome that, to go on and win. Was it the over 50s competition? Was it
IBFF
over 50? So those people who are looking at it and looking at the, you're sitting at home, you're 45, you're 50 years old and thinking, I can't do it, it's too late, I don't want to get back into the gym. And you're putting all these obstacles in your mind. Let's just listen to some of the things that Rick's going to talk about and maybe gain some inspiration from that and some tips that you can take away and apply to yourself and your own training regime and your nutrition. So welcome, Rick.
Welcome. Yeah,
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming. One of the big topics we were talking about, actually, something that you're really passionate about, was the nutrition side of it. So Nick was just telling me that he'd worked with Eddie Abu, and also
I've worked with Steve Avery, I worked with Eddie Abu, I worked with several other key bodybuilders, and I think the message I really want to get across to everybody is that you really have to focus on the nutrition. It's key. Clearly, if you're going to put weight on, you need to eat more food. There isn't a magic bullet, there isn't a magic answer. I really would encourage people to eat cleanly, obviously. Probably what's more in vogue now is to have more fats, so you're looking at your nuts, oils, that sort of thing. But really start to look at your diet, start to increase your calories and look at your training. They're the two areas you need to focus on.
Okay, well, that's really important. Now we're going to delve into some numbers, because I had a little gulp, as Ricky told me, of some of the numbers of the calories he was eating. So what initially you were telling me you went up to, was it 7,000?
Yeah, so the way it worked with Eddie Abu, when I worked with him, when I did the World Championships, when I was 53, first thing he did to me was he wanted to understand what I was eating, which we went through. Then we gradually started to increase the food bit by bit. I got up to 7,200 calories, which, bearing in mind I'm 5'7", that got me up to 16 stone 8. Then we reduced it down to 6,800. That's a hell of a lot to eat. And obviously, I'm not saying that's what everybody should do, but I'm fortunate in so much as I can digest food very well. I've got a very good appetite, but I can't impress on people enough the importance of looking at your diet, having a good clean diet, and continually eating more food. You'll find lots of benefits to this. You'll be able to train harder, you'll have a lot more energy. Even in your day-to-day life, you won't feel so tired because you're eating so much food. It really is something that I want to get home to people. Obviously, you need to look at your training as well, and that's personalised depending on what your physique looks like, but you must get your nutrition right. That's very important.
And I know that's a lot of food, that's a big number. I remember when you mentioned 7,000 calories, and I was talking about this before on one of the shows when I think I had a trainer on there. We were talking about the actual visual, what it looks like to have 7,000 of calories of clean food. That is, this table would be covered, wouldn't it? So did you find, sorry, with like the carbohydrate side, did you find that you stuck to a lot of the simple stuff like the white rice, white potatoes, because it's easily digested, or just?
Rice is a no-no.
Rice was no-no?
No, okay. Because you'll eat too much rice.
Okay.
If you consider that you'll eat 50 grams, which is 180 calories, think about that compared to 50 grams of porridge, which is 2 mouthfuls. Okay. So you've got to think about the volume of food, and you've got to think about eating the things that you like eating. Porridge isn't a problem for me, and jacket potatoes have been the main source of carbs. Wow. There would be some white rice, but what you've got to remember with rice, it's probably better when you're dieting because it's a filling, but you really need it the other way around. And oven chips is another thing to look at.
Right, okay.
Low fat oven chips is another thing you can eat.
What, just to bump the calories up to get those carbs?
So if you want to get the carbs, I would suggest for carbs, porridge I think is a good one.
Yeah.
Jacket potatoes is a good one. Oven chips. That's probably a basis. Then you're putting in bananas and fruit and all sorts of stuff.
With your porridge as well, did you find that you use like whole milk to bulk up the calories? Did you soak it the night before to kind of help break it down? Or?
Good question actually, and this is what I still do now. So basically, what you add to it is egg whites and water, and soak it overnight, and then cook it in the microwave in the morning.
Oh, okay, right. Mix up. Then just as you say, if you want to put your fruit in.
And you add some honey or some berries, whatever you want to add.
And also, you're talking back in the day when you were training, that the emphasis on fats was a lot less than it is now. I think people are becoming, maybe the education is a bit more, and people are kind of not so scared to eat fats because they realise that, you know, there's a lot of good fats out there. So back then there wasn't a lot of fat consumption in those calories, so that's even more food that you were taking.
It would be. Yeah, I think it's not so difficult now because I think there's an emphasis more on eating nuts, coconut oil, oils, which are quite easy to consume and they can make the calories up. So I think you probably need a balance of 20 to 30% of fats, 30 odd percent of protein, and probably around about 40-45% of carbs. And what you've got to do is it's a personal thing. Look at what you look at. Obviously, it's fine for me to say what I'm going to eat because I like that food, but you need to look at. I mean, you might prefer pasta. There may be other forms of carbs that you prefer eating, but you've got to find something that you've got to write your diet out and look at it and say, yeah, I'm comfortable. I can eat all that. You can't put your diet down and go, oh, I can't eat all that.
Yeah.
You're going to fail.
Well, you're not going to sustain it, are you? I always say that if you don't like eating tuna, don't eat tuna.
You're not going to keep it up.
Eat something that you enjoy eating, and you are going to eat that. So also another obstacle as we get older as well, we have more responsibilities, whether that's family, mortgages, financial, whatever that is the finding the time to have that kind of commitment. And you were mentioning that when you were training, was it for the over 50s, that you were still working in town?
Yeah.
So what did an average day look like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to get up in the morning, you're going to do your cardio first thing and go to the gym early on, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
You're going to get back home, get ready. You'd have prepared all your food the day before to take into the office. You'd have your large breakfast and then I'd go into the office. During the course of the day, you'd be eating some meals. At the end of the day at 5 o'clock, you'd leave to go home, back to the gym, training, more cardio. Literally after that, home, having a meal, preparing your food for the next day, having your last meal before you go to bed, and then you're probably going to bed at about 11 o'clock. So you really are on a treadmill. Obviously now, a lot of people work from home. I've got a lot more time on my hands when I'm working from home. You just need to work out how you can get your workout in, how you can cook all your food, and just prepare yourself, really.
Okay, that seems to be the biggest thing, is if you're prepared for any eventuality, you can't really fail. I think it's when you go into the day, you're thinking, I'll do this today, I'll do it later. That's when obviously, if your meals ain't prepared, the chances of you going to come off your meal plan or grabbing something that you don't want to grab are higher.
Exactly.
You're going to go, especially if you're working from home and you know where the treat drawer is, you know, you're going to start reaching for stuff that you don't necessarily want to.
Exactly.
And also, what about those around you at the time? Were you married? Did you have someone?
Yeah, I've been married all my life, nearly 30 years. Yeah, so she was very understanding because that's a very good point actually. You do put a lot of pressure on your family because you're so focused, so tunnel vision focused. And in fact, what I used to do, and I still do it now, is I go off plan. On Sunday, I'm off plan. And Steve Avery said, you can eat what you want. Don't do any cardio, don't go to the gym, do what you want. I used to have not the same amount of food that I had in the week. I would have different things. It's funny though, because you still eat the same things. Even though you're not eating what the diet is, you still find that you eat the same things.
It's almost like you get drawn to those foods.
Yeah, whatever it is, you tend to still eat that. But I would have, you know, typically on a Sunday, because really you want to have a rest, and it is a day of rest. So 2 or 3 meals in sort of to lunchtime, and then I went out with my wife for a meal every Sunday, which we've done for the last 30 years. And really that's whatever you want to have, which is what I've done, and I still do that now. So I think, you know, what I'm saying to people is, look, get the diet plan worked out.
Yeah.
Stick to that. Sunday I let my hair down. Thursday night I do the same thing. So all the rest of the time you're on your diet.
Okay. See, that's quite important there. So if you have got a family, or you've got a partner, etc., you don't want to isolate them all the time. You want their support. So it's nice that you can have that day or day and a half with your kids, with your family, maybe a Sunday roast, whatever it may be, to still feel included within the family. You don't want to isolate yourself.
You're not still just eating chicken.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably really important for both parts. I think it's really important for them to see you doing something that you're striving for. You know, especially if you've got kids around you. I always think that's good motivation to see your dad doing something. It, you know, builds up motivation and inspires yourself to want to do that. And also it's great for you knowing that you've got that support, you've got no pressure that day. If you wanted to go out for a meal and eat what you wanted, you can do that.
Yeah, it's very good to have rest. I mean, you put a lot of effort in the week.
Yeah.
You're really on a treadmill, to be honest. And you're on a treadmill even when you're not competing, because you're eating those meals. But you tend to find that you really do slip into a really good routine of cooking. You work out exactly what you're going to do. You become quite a good cook, actually, as it happens, because you're although it's basic food, and I do keep the seasoning down to a minimum.
Okay.
Although I do use some. That's quite important. But I think you've got to find that happy medium, really.
Yeah.
Yes, get all your food sorted out and go to the gym. Don't forget you're still married. Don't forget the people around you,
Yeah.
which it can happen when you're competing. And yeah, take it from there.
Right, that's really interesting. Right, so let's go back a few steps. So you won the, was it BF?
I won the UK BFF over 50s.
That was over 50s.
Yeah.
Let's go back a decade. What was happening in your 40s?
Yeah, so really I wasn't as committed as much as I was until I met Steve Avery when I was 47.
Okay, so you met him quite late then?
Yeah, I met him at 47, that's when we started working together. And I think that really, it's been over the last 15 to 20 years, there's been a trend of people working with coaches.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that before. You tend to find now everybody has somebody getting them ready for a show, or helping them in the off season. Now, if that's something you'd like to do because you feel, you'll have that discipline then of somebody that you've got to answer to, somebody that you're going to explain what you're doing. Obviously, I've worked with Steve, I've worked with Eddie, I've worked with Barney Duplessis, who went on to win the Navi Universe. So I've worked with all these bodybuilders, and we've got a slightly different view on how you do things. And what happens is they're teaching you things, and you learn a lot. Yeah. So perhaps my advice is, look, if you're a serious bodybuilder in this day and age, and you want to try and get on, you want to compete, look at some coaches, look at who might be able to help you out, and start to work with them.
That's really good.
And that takes the pressure off you, because if you're, looking at what you're going to eat and you think, I'm not really sure what I should eat, you'll get some direction. Eddie was very clear with me. There was no way I wasn't going to eat a lot. Okay. That was absolutely clear. It was like, no, you're eating this and that's it. And you tend to find that you've got somebody like that backing you up. It really helps. Okay. And let's face it, we don't really know what we're doing. Yep. And it's good to have that guidance.
I think one of those issues we have in social media now. The accessibility to get a coach or to find someone who knows what they're doing is kind of great. You haven't got to march down to your local weightlifting gym to find someone. You can get online, you can get on your phone, and find someone who is an expertise in that role, and even message out to them. And I suppose if you're financially investing in a coach as well, that kind of keeps you on track. If you're paying for something, that kind of keeps you invested in that area, doesn't it?
It does. You're exactly right. Yeah.
And so if we go right back now, we've done this backwards, by the way, but it just felt nicely because nutrition, we were talking about that before we came in. Yeah. If we go right back now, so what made you get into bodybuilding? Were you quite sporty at school? Was it something as soon as you left school, or was it something that came later in life? Did you play other sports first and fell into that?
Yes. So go right back, which for me is a long way. I've been looking at pictures of Charles Atlas in the magazines. Actually, when you look at him now, he's not all that great, but I would be looking at that thinking, I want to look like that one day. And that was a bit of an inspiration, I guess, and that's what would have been the inspiration. I did start training probably in my early 20s, but I think this is the thing, like a lot of people that age, did a lot of drinking, did a lot of partying, chased girls a lot, like you do. Yeah. But I also used to play cricket, and I ended up playing cricket at Weybridge. And I guess, yes, I went to the gym, yes, I didn't eat as strictly as I eat now. I would have made some gains, obviously, but I think it really started to come together when I stopped playing cricket in my mid-30s. That then gave me the ability to focus a little bit more on the training, because it's very difficult to do bodybuilding with other sports.
Yeah, 100%. I did talk about this.
Yeah, because
it's really conflicting.
Yeah, it will do. And I think what you'll find, I found I grew very quickly when I stopped playing cricket, because cricket was a big commitment. You're playing all day Sunday and all day Saturday. And I found that then started to take off. I I sort of did my own thing then, and it was probably, like I say, 10 years later from that point is the point at which coaches became very much in vogue. You know, and everybody always had somebody getting ready for a show.
Okay.
You tend to find at the moment people work with people in the off season as well, so they're helping them with their diet.
So they're helping them put on that weight, but also getting show ready as well.
Yeah.
And I know now you've got nutrition coaches, posing coaches.
Yeah.
Was that the same thing back then? Or?
No, I mean really, probably 20 years ago it was first starting to come in.
Okay.
And I saw Steve Avery had put an advert in a magazine, and I contacted him. It was quite surreal, really. You could probably make a film out of it, because when I sat down with him, this is 2005. He'd only 5 years earlier just won the light heavies British Championships, and he's a very well-known bodybuilder. To anybody that's 40 years and older will know Steve Avery well. So I contacted him, met up with him, and he said to me, I'll never forget, so what's your goal, Rick? Do you sort of aiming to win the British Championships in 2 or 3 years' time? And when he said that to me, I thought, really? Me? And guess what? It happened. And I think, it just shows you really that if you put the dedication and the effort into it, and you've got somebody guiding you, because I wouldn't have done it without him. I wouldn't have looked the way I looked without that discipline and the way he was. But it just shows you that, put your mind to it, make the effort, you can reap benefits from it. Yeah, you can get the rewards.
That's really handy to know.
Yeah.
And also, was there any period within that, so after you met him and you were going through that journey, because I like the fact that you didn't get into it till 37, so, our listeners listening to this and thinking I'm too old, listen to what Ricky was saying.
Yeah.
He didn't really embark on this journey till 37, which is around about the age group.
You say really when I obviously stopped playing cricket, that gave me the ability to focus more on the training. And then, as I say, probably 10 years after that, I met up with Steve Avery, and that was the point that it started to get really serious.
Okay.
Started to get very deep into the nutrition, very deep into the training, very specific about, he worked with me. He said, well, we need to get your arms up. So we started training arms twice a week, got them up to 18 inches.
Wow.
And all that sort of thing. So it takes if you've got a coach, it really helps, because it takes the pressure off, and these guys know what they're doing, and they can impart all that knowledge. Yeah. And he's an extremely knowledgeable person.
Well, having been there and done it, he knows it.
Yeah, been a top bodybuilder. You've got to remember, he won the NABBA Universe as a junior, and he would have won shows in his 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So all the way along that journey, he's been a top bodybuilder.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
That experience is so essential, isn't it? Passing that information on. Was there any period in that time, so leading up when you first met with him, and you tried to, wanted to go, and that was what the goal was, you wanted to make a serious commitment out of it, that you thought, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this
I really thought that. I think once I spoke to him and the way he was, and you're in, I'm a bit in awe of him anyway, because I knew who he was. And the fact that I was talking to him, you kind of feel as well that you don't want to let him down.
Yeah.
You kind of feel that you want to step up and make the effort. So I think it's unlikely that you'll start to work with a coach and think, oh, I don't know about this. I think you wouldn't have gone to them in the first place, really, unless you were serious, I think. Unless you thought, well, do you know what? This is perhaps a chance to step on a bit and make something of it. Yeah.
So you've almost made that commitment, you stepped into it.
The fact that you've contacted them, I think, shows
that you're being serious.
Yeah.
Right, the final subject I want to go on to, because I know you're wearing a shoulder brace there. A lot of older bodybuilders I see are literally creaking at the joints. Yeah. So first of all, what did you do during your training when you were competing to kind of, did you look forward into the fact that I've got to look after my joints, or was that not a big thing? And what do you do now to look after your joints and injuries?
Yeah, so I guess
because a lot of them are lifting really heavy. There was no emphasis on the future. It was now.
There was an element. There'll always be an element of that. Actually, there'll always be an element of that. And I think in hindsight, I wouldn't have bench pressed.
Okay.
It's a terrible exercise for your shoulders, really bad. And also, I think what you'll find as well, you want to really sort of pay attention to modern bodybuilding. And I talk about people like Derek Lunsford. So on Facebook and Instagram, if you follow people like Jay Cutler, who's very informed on the nutritional side, and you follow people like Lunsford, the current Mr. Olympia, you're going to get a very good view on modern bodybuilding. And what I see, there isn't such an emphasis when training chest on using big weights.
Okay.
There's more of an emphasis on the style
Right.
and feeling the muscle work, which if you think about it, particularly for chest, because it needs to be isolated. So I think if I went back in time, if I could, then I would have probably changed the way I trained. Funnily enough, I was training legs one day, and I was in the gym, and I saw a guy there, Mario Watts, good about my age, good top natural bodybuilder, and he was squatting with just a bar. Then he put a plate on, then he put another plate on. I said to him, yeah, so Mario, you do a lot of exercises there, a lot of light ones. He said, yeah, I'm looking after myself when I get older. He was doing a lot of very light warm-ups, which I started to do. So touch wood, from the heavy leg training I've done, I don't have any problems apart from a little bit of cartilage missing in that hip and a bit of wear and tear in that one. But I've since modified the way I train with exercises that don't affect my hips when I train legs. But I used to train very heavy, but I used to do a lot of warm-ups before I started. So I guess what I'm trying to say to people, and I'll give you a really good example as well. When Jay Cutler won the Mr. Olympia in 2009, and if you get a chance, have a look at the video, he had tremendous legs, and he only squatted with 4 plates. When you consider he was 280, 290 pound, there's no need to use 9, 5, 6 plates. It's just ego. If you can grow legs like that with that weight, why can't us guys grow legs with 3 plates? There's no need to.
So would you say there's more emphasis on time under tension and the full range of motion?
Well, not necessarily full range of motion, but more being a bit cleverer. I mean, now for instance, I do 30 reps when I train quads, and that's a really good way of training because you're not using the weight. So I think if you're training legs, it's different to upper body. It's a lot harder. You need to be very clear on how you're going to train. My suggestion is just ease back a bit on the weight and try and think about perhaps doing a few more reps, looking at the style.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Although you're the first person I've actually come across, you're still an advocate for squats, aren't you?
I'm a massive advocate of squats, right? Because and I love squats, and I always have loved squats, which helps because most people hate squatting. We don't, if I wind the clock back to earlier days, people squatted a lot more then than they do now. It doesn't seem to be an exercise that's done. I've traditionally done it now on the Smith machine because I don't need to have anyone watching me, and then you don't worry about the weight. But for leg development, I think it's key. Squatting on the Smith machine, I tended to have my feet a little bit forward. It makes it a little bit more. Gives you a bit more isolation. Again, there's other pendulum squat. There's other squatting machines you can use as well. It doesn't necessarily just have to be the Smith machine. But I'm a big advocate of that.
That's good because a lot of the older trainers that I speak to now who are still training tend to come off squats just because they say the risk is greater than the gain. But it's actually quite interesting that you still do that. So people out there who are not necessarily feeling any pain or discomfort around their lower legs or joints or anything, don't necessarily need to come off just because someone is saying, listen, you get old, you come off, judging it by how you feel personally.
Yeah, I think it's the legs more. I think it's the best exercise for mass on the legs. I think I favour it over leg press, and I favour it over other movements. That's my personal view.
Do you think people are dropping out because it's so difficult?
Well,
it's so taxing.
Yeah, and everybody used to squat really when I was younger. Everybody did, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
Now I don't see many people squatting really, not so much as they used to, and it is a good exercise. But again, I think perhaps go a little bit lighter and do a few more reps. I think it's probably the way to
save your joints.
Yeah,
but still do it, but save your joints. Good advice from Rick there.
Yeah.
Last thing then, so if we're talking injuries and prevention and kind of cure at the moment, do you take anything? I know I love natural stuff like turmeric. using stuff like that, getting it down to anti-inflammation and inflammation, helping your joints, etc. Is there any kind of supplements that you take on a daily basis, like multivits, omega-3s, or anything like that that you'd recommend? Any natural stuff?
Yeah, well, certainly. Yeah, I think that Rich Piana's 5% range of products is very good.
Okay.
And they use the joint defenders.
Right. That mix of glucosamine and the other stuff in there.
It's in there. Yeah. That I have those tablets. I have a number of other supplements as well that I take. You mentioned turmeric, vitamin D, vitamin B, multivitamins, vitamin C. All the usual sorts of stuff you would take. But I do recommend joint defender for your joints.
Okay, that's really good. And just because the importance, I say, of supplementation comes a little bit more to the forefront as we get older, and also if you're not eating as clean as you like, because that's where nutrients come from, don't you? And there's obviously, if you're eating cleaner, you're spot on with your nutrition at the moment. Still, 65 years old, so no excuses, gents. But there are, if you are going to take a few multivitamins, vitamin D, joint defender, a bit of turmeric can just help.
Yeah, it's almost certainly I'd recommend the joint defender, and vitamin C is key, and B and D.
Well, especially if you're still squatting, because you're taxing your potential nervous system hugely, aren't you? Well, mate, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. It's really, I'm really grateful for you to come in. I know you're a busy boy. So for all you gentlemen out there who think age is a number that's preventing you doing stuff, for those of you who are thinking about getting into bodybuilding but it's too late, I've missed a boat, listen back to what Rick was saying. There's loads of inspiration there, loads of tips, especially about nutrition. Maybe under counting your calories, you need to go quite high. Stick to the real food, like Rick was saying, maybe stay away from the rice if you're trying to put a bit of weight on, and hit the white potatoes if that's what you like. And remember to stick to foods that you like, because we're all about sustainability. We want you to keep doing what you're doing for years to come. Yeah, so if you are feeling little niggles in your joints, etc., get on a little supplementation like Rick said, and maybe just cut down on the weight a little bit, whatever exercise you're doing, and just try and go more reps, more control. But thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Rick, for coming on, and have a nice day.